Hello there. Thanks for joining me on this video today. My name is Ganesha. I am an Alteryx trainer. What I'm going to do today is just to share you a task and walk through you on the solution with the aim of demonstrating one of the Alteryx strong capability, which is called macro, particularly iterative macro. So what is macro? If you are an ETL developer, you must have come across this many times. Like, we develop a workflow and that gets multiple times redeveloped. We tend to use it as a common module and be able to reuse it where and when you require. So same concept here. Like, Alteryx has a capability to build a macro on the workflow, which can be converted into a kind of simplified tool and can be used in other workflows wherein the repetitive process can be very much globalized. Yeah. And what is iterative macro? Iterative macro is when we want to put a workflow into a loop. Yeah. So what are we going to do today? We've got this file which has some arrival airport and departing airport. And this is one of the interesting questions that they have even asked in their advanced certification. So when you look at some files like this, by the look of it, it might look simple, but what are we trying to achieve is to sequence it in a certain order that cannot be achieved by simple sorting or some other basic steps. For example, here, I want to order this record in the sequence of particular arrival airport and departing airport, starting with the departing airport and the arrival airport, and then next departing airport, and then again the same to be as an arrival airport, and then the next departing airport, right? So they call it as leg. So I have to arrange it in leg 1, leg 2, leg 3. But right now, how it is, so the first one is a starting point, which is empty, and then departing to ANCAG aviation. And then it starts with ANCAG aviation, which seems to be in the flow, and then departing to Arcola airport. But you see here, it's jumbled. It's not in sequence. So what we ideally need is that Arcola airport, which is on row number 16. So by look of this particular file, probably task sounds so simple, isn't it? Like, but it is not really so, because it cannot be achieved with a simple sorting or basic methods. So we might need to write some workflows, and I'll go through you on the logics that I'm thinking of using to build this workflow, and then we will go and get iterative macro built on top of it. All right. Let's get this started. Let's start with some conceptual workflow. All right. So we've got this input file. We bring in that file, and so let's draft a step-by-step process that we would like to build. All right. The first step, input data. In the second step, what I would like to do, I will have to look up departing airport value in arrival airport and bring that row below the row where we look for departing airport value. Yeah. So look up departing airport value in arrival airport and bring that row below that particular row where you're looking for. So once we bring that, what will happen? Like the first and second row, it will be arranged, right? And the fourth, the consecutive row will not flow in the same way, right? So for example, if I'm going to look for Arcola Airport, so probably this Arcola Airport will come over here. Yeah, but I also need this logic to go through for each and every rows, right? So third step is to iterate until all rows are arranged in expected sequence. Right. So while we do it, we might need to build in some more logics in place. All right. So at least conceptually we're clear that first we need to bring in data, look up for the reporting airport in the arrival airport, and then reshuffle it and put it into a kind of iterative process and bring it one after the other, right? And then fourth is output. All right. But this is just a kind of very high level, right? So, but we will see what we would need in order to achieve each one of these steps. All right. All right, let's get this started in the Alteryx designer. I've got the input file here. So what I need to do is I need to look up the value of departing airport on arrival airport and replace the value. Let's see how we are going to do it. The right tool, in my opinion, would be find and replace. Yeah. And I will have to give a find and replace of the same table because we are looking up for the value on the same table, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the entire field and I'm going to choose the departing airport as a find within value and find the value of arrival airport. And I'm not going to replace anything, but rather I'm just going to append the fields to each record. So I'll go with that. Let's see what happens. Let me run this. And here we go. How did we get our results? I've got the departing value on the rebel field, right? That's exactly what I'm looking for on the right side of each row. Perfect. So what I've got right now is pair for each row, right? What I need to do is I need to bring them one underneath the other, and then I will put it in the right sequence. All right, so I'm going to do it. The next step, just going to introduce a formula just to bring it one below the other. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, just going to create a new column. Let me call it as concatenate. Better what to use, but just, that's fine. First, I'm just going to use a string function, just making it has two rows in a single row. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And if I'm going to run it, I'll have my output something like this. Perfect. Now what I can do, I can bring the row one below the other. So basically it's going to be a lot of duplicate, but we'll deal with it. So what I'm going to do, the next one, I'm going to do a text to column, probably text to row within this tool. Yeah. So I'm going to choose the concatenate, split into rows. And now what I will get is something like this. I can also do a browse to show you exactly. So I've got some values like this. You see, I've got each rows, I mean, they're paired values underneath each other, but the problem is I've got a duplication. So initially it was 20 records, now I've got 40 records, right? And I could see the paired values along with the original value in each row, right? Now, the second step, what I need to do is I need to move this value over here. Similarly, I need to move this value over here. All right, let me see how I'm going to do it. I will remove this browse. So whenever we need to work on previous rows or any rows in previous or after, the right tool to use is multi-row formula. This is another powerful tool. What I'm going to do, I'm going to update the existing field, which is the arriving airport, and I'm just going to write an expression here. IIF departing airport equal to row -1 of arrival airport. So what I'm trying to say here, let me have a look at the input value. Yeah, so I need to change the value of this one with this one. Yeah, so when I'm going to change it, if the departing value so if my departing airport here is equal to the previous arrival airport 2, then what I need to fill this value over here. Yeah, so on the arrival airport I need to replace it with arrival airport 2. So I will copy paste this, or else I want to retain whatever is there in the current arrival airport. Good. So let me make sure that this will produce the expected result, right? So if departing airport equal to -1 of the previous the arrival airport 2, right, this will produce an expected result. The reason why I'm using a row multi-row formula is because I cannot perform this formula in the single row, otherwise each row will get updated with the other value, which is not what I want. I want the row underneath should get the right side value of the row above. So this is exactly what I need. So for my convenience, I will just hide all the comments. And so let me run it. So what I've got, let me close the browse. So if you look out the output value, this is what we've got. Yeah. So on each row, we have updated only on the arrival airport. So we could see that if the arrival departing airport is equal to the arrival airport 2, we populated the arrival airport here. So we've got the subsequent value. Similarly here, when this departing airport Arcola is equal to arrival airport, the Arcola airport is here. That's exactly right. But now we have to update the departing airport also. Let's repeat this once again. And this time we will update only the departing airport. Formula condition remains the same, just that we need to change this value here. So what are we expecting? So we should get this value down here. So if this are equal, then I need to get departing airport 2. Otherwise, keep my departing airport as it is. Right. Let me run it and see what happened now. So now what we've got, so we have shifted this value down, and similarly for the next set of record, we've shifted this value over here. Good enough. So now we've got the paired records one below the other. That is not sufficient, because as we see here, we've got the paired record sorted out, like this departure and the arrival and the departure, but here they just duplicate, right? And for this is just a arrival and the departure, but we don't have the flow going on the all the rows. So which gives us a sense that we have to put it into a kind of iterative loop to succeed with what we are looking for, right? So let's get this going. And in the next step, one of the challenge is to preserve that position, the sequence that we're trying to arrange, right? So now, if you try to use the unique tool and remove all the duplicates, then there is a possibility that it would go off the track. So for example, if I'm going to put the unique tool, right? And let me, oh, sorry. And I give the unique value of arrival and departure. And look at my unique value. See what happens. I've got 20 records, and I did not get the continuation here. See, like the Arcola airport again went to its original position, so did not solve my problem. So what I need to do, what I'm going to do, I'm going to include a record ID just to keep the position that I can sort at any point of time. So the record ID is here, and let me just call it as leg LEG, and let me run this now. Before that, let me sort this. Actually, that will be a step to be done, because anyhow it will shuffle the order, but now after sorting it back to the record ID LEG, it should give me the expected result. All right. Now you see, so we have the continuation here, Arcola Airport to Arcola Airport. Agua is not continued, that's, we know it. The Arogulana airport is not continued, we know it. And all the pairs of records have been retained. Those pairs have been retained. So we've been successfully got the pair of rows, right? All right. So let's make sure we mark whichever we have sorted out and whichever we have not. And we make sure we know we don't want to repeat the same thing again and again on the same rows, which we've already sorted out. Yeah. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in a simple formula. I'm going to say, simply add a column called sorted. and I'll write in okay, so because right now I will not be able to use this formula tool, because again I'm going to look at the similar condition of looking a row, I mean a column of a row and one row with another row. So again, the tool that would be appropriate is multi-row formula. So I will be creating a new column, sorted. I'll call that as Boolean. That's what the type I need. And if is no, I prefer caps. Arrival airport. Which means like we are trying to skip this record. We want to mark this as sorted true. Yeah, or arrival airport equal to the previous departing airport here. So which basically means it is already sorted. And mark it as good, else it is not yet good. And if, yep, oh, there seems to be some problem in the arrival. Oh, that's spelling mistake. Arrival, sorry. Good now. All right, so let me get a browser, run it, browse tool, and let me look at the result we've got. All right, so is it populated properly? The first record, yes, I'm happy with that. The second record, yes, it is a continuation, I'm happy with that. The third one, yes, it's a continuation, I'm happy with that. The fourth one, oops, here, yep, it's not the continuation, I'm not happy with that. So it's set false, so I'm good. So I've set true for all that has already been sorted off and set false for the ones that yet to be sorted. All right, so now we've got a framework done here. Yeah, now is the critical point, like we need to build an iterative macro, right? Okay, so in order to build a iterative macro, so first thing we need to do is we need to click on the canvas, go to the workflow and make this a macro and scroll down, call this as iterative macro, point one. And secondly, we have to convert this input into a macro input, point two. And we will have to have a two macro output, one for the looping and another one for exit, right? When we want to loop it back, I would like to make sure here the replace we do here is only working on the rows that has not been sorted out. Yeah, so what I will do, I will bring in a formula and say oops, sorry, I would bring in a filter and I will say get only. See here, the problem is like it doesn't have the sorted field. One more thing I would like to do for the testing purpose, I would include a sorted here. I'll let you know how I'm going to do it in the real time. And I'm just going to feed in the value as false for everything for the first run. Good. Fine. Now I'm going to filter the sorter, just going to use when it is false. And that's all I'm going to look up, and I'm going to repeat this operation on. All right. And now, what is showing here? Some error. Let me quickly run it and see what error it is. Field sorted already exists in incoming field. Yes. So I'm going to update it as an existing field. Fair enough. Now, let me see. Just want to make sure it remains all as is. All right, cool. I can remove all these fields, but I'll do it a little later in the flow. Now, in order to make it as an iterative macro, as I said, we have to convert this input tool to a macro input. And similarly, we need to have two output, one for the looping, another one for the exit. And also we need to have a certain condition to say this is when you can exit and this is when you have to keep repeating the loop. So we have to figure out that particular condition. Yeah. And what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to phrase this logic. If at all there is no value of false in my sorted column, I can exit. If there, as long as it has false in my sorted column, it's going to go through the loop, right? And I'm just going to summarize my output based on sorted. Let me group it, and I will just count the value for each one. Yeah. Let's see what this one produces. And I get this output. Right, perfect. Now what I need to do, I need to write some kind of filtering criteria to say when to go for the looping and when to go for the exit, right? So in order to do that, I would like to concatenate the total count. I'll let you know shortly why I would need that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to count the number of records, and I'm going to append it to the table here. What this will produce, just it will add this 2 in my source counts. Yeah. So let me call that as a group count. This is grouped by, so let me call this as group count. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say if this output is true always, all for all the values, if it is all the values true, which means there is no value of false, which means overall my output is just 1. So let me write that filter here. So what I'm saying is, if the count or the group sorted by is true, yeah, then I'll leave it the basic filter, then exit. If this is true, then exit. When I need to exit, I need the original values. So I will bring in the values and I will append to these values. All right. And I also don't want to append too much, so I will also make sure there is only one output here, and count is equal to 1. Just one row with the value of true. So in that case, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to append the output with the original value. All right. And this will get me an exit path. Now I have to create a path for the looping. And with the input values, I can pass it back, right? So here I've mentioned the true condition will be if it is going to be true. The group by value, sorted value is going to be only true. But the false condition would be if it is false, or if it could be any other value, right? Let me make sure I will deal with only false. So I will introduce one more filter, because that's exactly when I want to. I don't want any null or something to interrupt there. So let me also write if the group value, sorted by value, is false. If it is false, then I will have a similar append to go here. Yeah, and also you want to make sure the count may not be 1, because it could be 2, but still I'm filtering only on the files, so that's fine. That's good enough. And I'm appending this value with here. Now I have created an exit path, and I've created a path for looping. Now let me select what all I need to send to the exit and what all I need to send to loop. Yeah. So to exit, I need leg, arrival, departure date, sorted. I don't need all of them. I'll remove. I don't need any unknown. And to the looping, I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. I wouldn't need this. I need these 3. And because that's exactly what I have in my input, the structure of my input is exactly the same. And arrival, departure, the sorted. Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm passing for the loop. Loop will basically pass on back to the input macro. So all the 3 values, I'm sending it back, and make sure the data types are appropriate. And then I will bring in, go to interface, bring in macro output. And here also a macro output. Perfect. Now I've got my flow ready. So in order to test it, first of all, I've got a macro input, I've got an exit macro output, I've got a looping macro output. I need to set this properly. First, let me save my workflow. I'll save it in my desktop. Iterative macro demo. And you see, it will be YXMC, it's a macro. And most important is to set up the interface designer. Yeah, so here is how each one of the input output macros will be set up. And this is the interface palette. Like if you would have known how to build a macro or application in Alteryx, you would have come across this. And here is the settings. So here what I need to say, the iteration input. What is my iteration input? I've got iteration input 1. I've got, before, while I'm looking at it, that's popping up in my head. probably first of all, let me name it properly so that it will be easy to assign those. So if you click here, the input name, let me call it as file, I'll say I, and in the exit, I'll say file, I'll say O, and in the output, I'll say loop, I'll say yellow. Yeah, this would be easy for me to refer. And in the input, I have file, and the iterative output, iteration output should be the looping output. And we can set the maximum number of iteration it has to go through. In our case, probably 100 is good enough, I believe. Let's see. And when the maximum number reaches, anyhow, it's going to error out. And all iterations will have some output schema, error if different. All iterations will have same output schema. That's the settings that I've done. Now I'm ready with my iterative macro. All right, so now let's do this. Let me create system, or let me do this way. I can do that. I hope it should work. Copy. Copy. Let me bring in the text and say paste. Right. Arrival airport, departing airport, sorted. All right, so now I've got my input ready. Let me bring in my macro that I've just created. I'll have to browse it, go to my desktop, and I could see this. Cool. All right, so now I've got my macro brought in. Let me run this. Didn't like it. Oh, right. I know what is going on. So mostly, whenever we bring in this append, we would have these settings. So I'm going to allow all the append because I know intentionally I'm just appending all the records. Just going to leave it to allow. And let me save it. Come here, it will ask for refresh, done. Let me write. Perfect. Now we've got the result. So let us look at the result closely. There you go. So we have the flow. No, there is something wrong. We didn't get what we need. There you go. It's because it was trying to append the records. If you see at the last set of records, it has sorted it properly. Let's see the reason why it has appended rather than writing it. All right, so the problem what I could find here is, all right, okay, so the source and target. If I'm going to run this, irrespective of this filter doesn't produce any true result, it still acquired some value because it used the entire record as a target rather than it to be a source. So I'm going to swap this around. Let this be target and let this be source. That's why every time it has keep appending this output table and the final result have come with accumulation of all those records. All right, so let me quickly make a run and see. Perfect. This is what my desired output be when there are false values in it. Okay, and one more thing, like we don't need this separate select tool when we are using append tool or some tools which have embedded select options in it. Like if you see append, we can do the same functions that we can do with the select. So I'm going to remove this just to minimize the number of tools in the flow. And let me see what I need. And the output, I don't need this LEG also. I will generate it once again. And what I will do, I will bring in a fresh record ID that will have a proper numbering on it. I'll call this LEG. And similarly, here also I don't need all these except these three columns. And here the mapping is proper. So here this comes as a target and the entire value comes as a source. So this should ideally resolve the issue that we have faced just now. Let us see. Let me run this and look at the result. Yep, looks like it has produced exactly 20 records, which is the input. Perfect. So now if you look, the departing airport becomes arrival airport, then departure, then arrival, departure, arrival, departure, arrival, departure, arrival. So it went into the expected flow. So this is how iterative macro will be useful. Just to clarify, I have not gone through in depth of the concepts of macro or iterative macro, just because this video is meant for demonstrating how we build them rather than training about the bits and pieces of what each one mean, right? So this assumes that you have already got some Alteryx background and you'll be able to follow the workflow that I've just worked on. Thank you very much for your time. Catch you in my next video. See ya.